All right. I think everything is up and running. Might need to tweak my sound settings a little bit here, but we should be good to go ahead and jump over to the drawing stream layout and get started. Let's see. Put the volume and EQ about here. Yeah, we'll switch over and I'll double check my sound settings as we get started. Okay, here is the drawing stream layout as normal. Let's see, looking at OBS, trying to see if my EQ needs to be adjusted. About here should be all right. I need to be careful because if I'm going to be recording stuff with the loop, I don't want it to redline. But you guys can let me know if it's hard to hear. Hey, Abby's here. Abby says, yo. Hey, what's up, Abby? Welcome to the drawing stream. We're just getting set up here, and I'm double checking audio, so let me know if there's any issue with you being able to hear me. Sounds like there's a little bit of feedback. Let me change my sensitivity a little bit and then turn my EQ down. Let's see. That's about where it normally is when we're doing other stuff, so I'm going to leave it there. You put a message up here on stream. For people to see as they kind of file in. Abby says, what will you draw? So today we're going to be looking at some character concepts. I'll be kind of starting from scratch and designing some characters that I want to draw. So I think we'll probably start with some headshots, and I'm going to try and create like a template setup so I can basically work on a head model and then experiment with different hairstyles and whatnot, and then we'll kind of see what develops. This would be probably the first stream that I'm doing on the drawing side that doesn't have a specific end goal in mind. Normally we have kind of a destination for where we want to go. Today I wanted to do a little bit more of a free-form exercise in order to just kind of come up with some ideas. And Abby says like a sketch. Yeah, I usually do everything in sketch primaries just to get ideas together, and then once we have details that I like, I'll actually put it into a rendered, inked, and colored and shaded sketch. But for today, we'll see what we come up with. The end goal is to be able to have enough things together to put a fully rendered and fleshed out character in place. I just don't know if we're going to be able to get there today. We'll see. But before we get into that, like the thing on the screen says, since I don't know if you've been on these before, Abby, but when I've been doing these drawing streams, usually every other week, I create my own BGM using the loop station. That's why it says on the overlay over there, it says playlist live loops. And sometimes the background music stuff that I create gets saved and turned into actual BGM tracks that I release later. So let's see. I was thinking some ideas of something to do earlier today. I kind of wanted to do a more EDM electronic type of BGM beat. So what I'm going to do is see if I can get a percussion line down, a bass line, and a synth line, which is not something I've been doing a lot. And I want to experiment with the synth function on the loop station and get better at using it. So let's see. One thing that I was learning earlier, just watching tutorials on loop station stuff, is putting filters on kicks, which Eventually, when I get better at constructing a beat piece by piece, I'm going to do that. But for now, actually, I can experiment with it here. Try and throw the filter on and see if we just create a percussion line. So I was thinking kind of like a electronic-ish beat, maybe something with kicks, and we do outward case snares. So maybe like a maybe a little bit faster, and then I want to add in a hi-hat track here on the loop. So let me see if I throw filter on and try and do just the kicks and the snares and then loop that, what it sounds like. All right, the filter will be on, so if I try and talk, you guys probably won't be able to understand what I'm saying. It looks like I have my dynamics off, so I'm going to get a little closer to the mic. It looks like there's a bit of fluctuation with the way the filter applies to the different parts. I'm doing basically a one measure kick, snare, and then looping that. And it looks like it sort of distorts it differently. So I wonder if I turn it down a little bit and try and record, because I want to sound the same in the measure. So let's see. Let's try and turn down to maybe 25% and see what it sounds like. Okay, turning it down even further actually makes it more distorted. So maybe we can try using normal filtering and not have it get all weird. Hey, Wazzy's here. Good evening, Wazzy. Welcome to the drawing stream. We're getting set up with BGM. All right, I have my dynamics on, so now I don't have to talk quite as close to the mic. Let me see. I mean, go back to that original beat, just a kick, snare, and then I want to add hats and a bass line. Normally, it takes us about 20 minutes to come up with something functional for BGM if I'm creating it just on the fly with no prior planning. So let me give that a try. So let's see. Going back to the get that to loop. Keep the BGM faders down here. Hopefully it's audible that you guys can still hear it, but not so loud that it's overpowering when I'm trying to explain here. Now let's see. You can try and add a hi-hat run. Maybe like a just a constant run like that, using that TSF pattern we talked about in previous jam streams. All right. Now bass line. Let's see. We could do guitar to bass. Maybe we'll go for a descending bass line starting from a bit higher up using guitar to bass. So kind of like a string bass line that's going downwards from a little bit higher up than normal. I tend to start in lower register out of habit if you need to break. I'm going to experiment with a couple different ideas for a bass line, and then once I get it looped, then we should be good. And that should be enough for the BGM for now. About there, not bad. I think the note progression is okay, but I think it's slightly off key. Let me try and record that again, and then we'll be good. All right. I think that'll work. I just need to drop the balance down a little bit so it's not quite so loud. I'm going to leave it there. Let me know if it's either too soft or too loud. These guys need to be able to hear me when I'm kind of talking through stuff here. So I've got it about 50-ish, 50-ish%. So let me know if I need to adjust it up or down. Hey, Sour Lad's here. Sour Lad says, yo, yo, yo. Hey, what's up, Sour Lad? Welcome to the drawing stream. We're just getting our BGM set up, and I think it's good to go. So let me know if you have trouble hearing me or if the BGM is too loud or soft, and I can adjust it on the fly. All right, I'm gonna move my mic so that I can get at my tablet, and now we can go ahead and get started. Let's leave that about there. Alright, we can get rid of this. And let's see. What we're going to do, I was talking about a little bit towards the beginning of the stream. Today's session is going to be a little bit more freeform, at least for the first part. I've been wanting to do kind of just a brainstorming session for creating character concepts. And to that end, what we're going to do is I'm going to lay down a sketch layer. We're going to start with just some heads. And I'm going to put down a primary kind of shoulders, neck up sketch of a head. Make sure it's facing the right direction that I want and whatnot. And then I'm going to use that as a template. And like I was explaining earlier, what I want to do is just experiment around with things like facial features or hair specifically. Maybe we can do several different sketches of hair, sort of again brainstorming for just coming up with some character ideas, and then based on that we'll see how far we get and how much more fleshed out we can get the character concept. and then we'll see how long that takes, and then maybe from there we can switch gears. There's something else I wanted to work on today too, but because I haven't had time to just do like a free-form sketching session, that was the point of the main point of the drawing stream. So let me see. We'll go. Should be a good line weight for our sketch pencil. And for those who might be new to the drawing streams, I'm working in Clip Studio Paint, formerly known as Manga Studio back in the day. And what I'm going to do is see if I can sketch some faces. This will be sort of a continuation of the character study that we did last time a few weeks ago, which was the remixing old art, which is something I'm going to get back to at some point. Wazzy says, what kind of character are you making? I don't know if I told you guys about this or talked about it on stream really at all. Maybe I mentioned it a long time ago, but I do a lot of writing. I don't do as much as I'd like to nowadays because I've been really busy, but I do a lot of writing and character stories, and so most of the concept stuff you guys see is related to things that I'm working on in said writing project. And I've been thinking about some ideas for a new story, and I kind of want to design a main character to answer Wazzy's question. And let's give myself a good size eraser. What I'd like to do is design a female character, like a lead. So the basic layout and sketch that I'm going to be doing is going to be for like a female type character head. When we did the first version of the remix project, we did a male character, and for this story that I'm thinking about, it would have a female lead, so that's kind of what I wanted to do here. Let me see if I can move my mic slightly. I need to be a little bit more on top of my tablet in order to draw. One exercise I used to do when I used to draw a lot more, I'm trying to get back into it. It's just kind of tough with how busy my schedule is. One thing I used to do way back in the day, which I kind of want to emulate here for this exercise, is I would do something where I create, let's say, look at the basics for like a shoulders up render of someone. I'll clean it up in a second for the sketch, but I would basically make one of these and then copy it a dozen times on a sheet, like a template. And then I would go through and take each template and then just draw some features on it. And, you know, like I do like a hairstyle on one, save that, go on to the next one, do like a different hairstyle, and basically apply it to the same template just so I have a whole bunch of ideas, kind of like mannequin heads. And just experiment with different things and just have it captured. So if I ever need to reference stuff for characters later, I have kind of like a concept render sheet, or reference sheet rather. So that's what I want to do to kind of start here. Since I have no idea what specifically I want to do with this character, I kind of want to organically just put some ideas down and see what materializes. down pencil for sketching here. Get rid of that. What I'm doing here is I'm just messing around with the angle and sort of the direction for the template piece here. And I'm the reference lines in here just so I don't start drawing stuff off axis and whatnot. And maybe what I can do, this is really more of a note thing for reference in the future. When I do kind of a character concept reference sheet, I try and group stuff together similarly just so I don't forget what I was doing. So just so it's noted here, it doesn't mean anything other than it's just a reference point if I have to come back to this later. This is for a female character. Now we have kind of a copyable mannequin head. Again, similar concept. And I guess I'll have to think about whether or not I want to. And I think I'll sketch directly on that layer. It's fine. When we actually try and single out specific designs that we want to ink or move forward in the whole design process, then I can create a new layer and start doing actual line work on it. For now, it's all going to be done in Sketch using this sketch pencil. So let's maybe start with three ideas. Okay, I'm gonna work on number one here. I'm toggling on and off. I guess the first thing to do would be to just start sketching some details in. Basically, it's gonna be a total rough sketch of the entire face, features, hair, and all of that. And I want to do that for 1, 2, and 3, and maybe we'll do 3 different iterations of kind of different design attributes and combinations, and then see how it looks. Like I mentioned earlier, when I used to do this back in the day, and I used to do this on paper, this was before I really did a lot of digital work, I would basically fill an entire 8.5 by 11 landscape piece of paper with just a bunch of blank heads, and then it would be my reference concept sheet. And if I wanted to just brainstorm an idea or an idea popped into my head, I'd pull the sheet up and say, okay, I'm going to go to number 7, which doesn't have any features on it, and then put the idea down together before I forget. Because like I mentioned before, if I don't put an idea that I have in mind either in a notepad or on paper, I will forget it, usually overnight. It's a really bad problem with beatbox routines where I have a great idea, if I don't write it down or record it, and I go to sleep and I forget it the next day. Alright, so if we're working on number 1 here, let's see. Let me put the eyes around here. Hey, Penguin's here. Penguin says, "Hi, Raku. At work, if you couldn't tell, and came to say hi." Hey, Penguin. Nice of you to drop by. I'm assuming you're on your break. Hopefully your workday is not too hectic and crazy. Again, as we get closer to the holiday season, I'm sure every time I say that, it'll be less and less encouraging as the holiday madness picks up. But what we're doing here is we're doing some character sketch work and just experimenting around with ideas and let's see, let me drop my weight down a little bit. Coming up with ideas for a potential character in a story. And maybe we could put some details about what we're thinking for the character that may inform some of the things that we draw here. So let's say I'll put these down as they come to me. Age, I'm gonna say mid 20s. Whoops, put that on its own layer. Down here. Wazzy says, "So glad I'm no longer in retail. I feel for you, Penguin." Penguin says, "I am, and it's been steady but not busy. Someone did leave an entire bag of Christmas decorations by my store for some reason." Ah, yes. You're now entering the retail hell of hearing nothing but holiday music for the next month. Assuming it didn't start last month or in October in some godforsaken stores. Yeah, I agree with Wazzy. Retail is always brutal, but especially brutal during the holidays for a variety of reasons. When I worked in a grocery store, that basically taught me to not like Christmas music just out of hearing it constantly. I have nothing against Christmas music in concept. Like, I'm not an anti-Christmas person, but when you go for like 8 to 10 hours of hearing nothing but the same 6 Christmas songs over and over, it tends to drive you insane. All right, I'm gonna change my strategy slightly here. Let me put the guidelines back on. I want to keep those in place, and I'm gonna actually change my strategy slightly and go on a new layer. Because we're just sketching it, it's not really gonna be too much lost time. I'm gonna have to do like a hierarchy thing and organize what I'm doing. But for now, let's do this. I'll drop transparency, and then I can actually do there we go. And I'll just I'll frame the face and everything else from scratch again, and then I can have my own layer I'm working on. Penguin says, "No, I mean that someone left a trash bag full of Christmas decorations by one of the trash cans." Oh, it was just abandoned? Someone left random decorations just for no reason? That's kind of weird. Isn't that just littering? So that means you have to dispose of it and it becomes your problem, which that's annoying. I thought you meant that your store had to decorate. what I'm doing here is I'm thinking about some eye shapes. I don't want to go for necessarily the standard large anime eyes. Kind of thinking more of a moody character here, so I'm gonna go for a little bit more narrow. We can experiment and try all sorts of combinations and see. Wazi says, Raku, what was your worst job? And then Penguin says, they literally did that. It's sadly normal at my work. People with a used portable. Someone did that with a used portable grill once and had an entire sewing machine, so they dump garbage at your work. That's unfortunate. To answer Wazi's question about the worst job I ever had, I haven't held a ton of jobs, but definitely the ones that were in retail were the most difficult. You guys have heard me tell stories about working in the kitchen. That wasn't by any stretch the worst job I've ever had. It was actually a really good job. I really liked the people I work with, and I learned a lot, and it only sent me to the ER once. I'd say probably the worst job I ever had for an extended amount of time was when I worked at the grocery store. Kind of similar to Penguin's situation, I was a bagger at a local grocery store, and it was tough work, as retail usually is. All the different challenges that you deal with, crazy customers, just insane rushes and all that. But the worst part about the job in the time I was there for maybe about a year and a half, I worked my rear off at that job just because that's what you do. But I really wanted to work in stock. Again, as a bagger, you're kind of the low peon and you get peed on. But I wanted to move up to stock because I wanted to work with inventory, and they actually had me do stock stuff and kind of help the stock when it was slow. Penguin says, I'm not exactly a bagger. My role is a courtesy clerk. Yeah, that was my title too at the local grocery store I worked at. The primary duties besides bagging, Penguin's mentioned this before too, so I can confirm. It's stuff like getting carts, helping people take their groceries out to their car. I had to do a lot of cleaning around the store too, so I'm assuming that's part of Penguin's job. It's a lot of grunt work, and you're kind of at the mercy of managers and the checkers, and you're sort of their gopher whenever they need stuff. But I wanted to get into stock, and without getting into too many specifics, I worked for kind of a challenging manager. He was not a nice guy. The entire store, in fact, hated him because he was basically a giant douchebag. And he refused to promote me for some specific, or for some unspecified reason. I have my theories, but for the time I was there, despite them having me do that type of work, probably because they knew they didn't have to pay me like a stock person's hourly wage, that was part of it. But they always kept saying, oh yeah, we'll, as soon as the position opens up for stock, we'll let you know. And it got kind of sus when management promoted a few of the newer bagger people that had started around me instead of me, despite me asking for a year or so after I'd been there. And so that's when I started to get a little suspicious of, like, okay, you said that you were waiting for a position to open up, and you just filled it with 2 people that started recently. It's a little bit sketch. And I kept trying. I kept, saying, well, look, I've been doing the work. I really would like to do that full-time as my job. And the thing that sticks with me to this day, which, it is what it is, but I asked the manager, again, the manager nobody liked, when I could potentially get promoted. And what he told me was, he said, we can't promote you from a bag person to stock because you're too good at your job as a bag person, and we want you to set an example for all the people that we hire around you. So we can't promote you because you're too good at what you do. Now, I can sort of read between the lines a lot more now than I could way back in the day when I worked at the store, but that's the most BS reason ever to not promote somebody. And I didn't realize it till much later when I moved on from that job. I think Penguin probably probably can relate to that a little bit. Penguin says, that actually happening to me right now. They keep rejecting me for promotion because I'm the only consistent one that does carts and trash. I think the idea of making sure you have competent people in a role is definitely valid for, whatever job you work in, right? But the idea that you tell someone that you're not promoting them because they do too good of a job is just a flat out lie. Just say you don't want to promote them and don't lie. And there are some other things in play that were also kind of suspect, but I don't want to really get in the details without doxing a lot of information. Either way, it was pretty lame, but I didn't stick around in that job for too much longer. But there were some interesting interactions. I can relate to a lot of the stories that Penguin tells about what he sees at his job, because a lot of the similar stuff happened to me when I was working in a grocery store. Retail's brutal, man. Like Wazzy said, it doesn't matter what kind of retail. It runs a spectrum, obviously, but retail is merciless, but it teaches you a lot of really good life skills, and it'll make you appreciate every other less frustrating job you may have. Penguin said, I keep asking and I've been rejected 4 times, and they promote the people that have been there a month and I've been there longer. Yep. I went through that song and dance for about maybe almost a full year after I'd been there before I eventually left for other reasons. So I'm not saying it's the exact same situation, but I'm very similar, most likely. Just gotta hang in there, Penguin. Penguin says, sadly, my management really likes me, and they do advocate for me, but the ones that decide to reject me, yeah, that's when you start getting into the politics of personnel hiring and whatnot, and that's a whole nother mess to deal with. But what I always tell people whenever they're looking at jobs in retail and whatnot, and especially if they're students, right? I know you're a student, Penguin. I always tell them, just remember all of these things you go through in these jobs and stay in school. So you can one day get out and then make 5 times their salary. Penguin says, gotta get back to work. All right, man. Good luck with the grind. Watch out for Karens and trying to let it bug you. That's the best you can do. And thanks for stopping by, as always. Alright. Working our way down towards the expression on the mouth. I kind of want to go for something neutral. Again, I was thinking kind of a moody character here, but I don't really want to convey much in the facial expression here. Let's keep it neutral, and then once we start to zero in on an actual concept, you can do things like change expressions and whatnot. Wazzy says, man, grocery stores, box stores sound awful. They can be. I've talked to people who haven't had similar experiences, honestly. It just depends on who's running it, really. If you have terrible management or unfair things, you'll see that in any organization, be it retail or non-retail. And I think I've mentioned this before when we were talking about story time stuff from the kitchen era. Working in retail between things like the kitchen and grocery stores and whatnot goes a long way in teaching empathy. If nothing else, if you work in a job like that and then you get out one day and you're doing something else, at the very least, when you go to those places as a customer, the best thing you can do is not abuse the people that work in those jobs, because they don't get paid enough to deal with more than they already have to as part of their job. So be they wait staff, cooks, people at the cash register, people bagging groceries or whatnot. I personally try and make it a point to not make their day or their job any more difficult and be as nice to them as possible, because again, you deal with enough people who don't believe that you should treat retail workers nicely, or anybody for that matter. It's not fun. So that sense of empathy is something that I think is really valuable for people working in a role like that. And that's what I would have told Penguin if he was still on. It's like, eventually if you get out and move on to bigger things, just don't forget where you've been. Not to get preachy and soapboxy here, but people don't get paid enough to deal with shenanigans in a lot of cases. All right. Wazzy says, I did retail sales like clothing, office supplies, books, sorta, so I get it. Yeah, it's the same thing. Anything that's customer facing, right, in retail, that's where that sense of empathy comes from, whether it's something more low key or maybe less demanding, or it's something like a grocery store or a restaurant. Bottom line is, no matter what people are doing, they don't get paid enough to be abused by customers. So it does build character though, and usually results in some interesting stories. I need to do a story time stream for some of the grocery store stories. I have to go back and write some of them down. I think I have more stories about the kitchen because I was there longer. Again, I only worked in the grocery store for less than 2 years versus almost 7 in the kitchen. But yeah, pays the bills. It's a living, as they used to say. All right. Going back to our character here, let me draw in some eyes. I'm going to drop the transparency on the template layer a little bit more. Let's rough in some irises. Now we can look at hair. Again, sketch details on things like the eyes don't need to be super finalized. It's just kind of a placeholder. What I might do, since again this is just concept work, I might copy the faces. If I like the combination of things like the eyes and whatnot, and just want to change the hairstyle, then I may copy the heads with the face details and then just edit things like the hair too. We might have a grid by the time we're done with this. So let's see, maybe more of like a short hair to start. I wish I was better at hair. If we wanted to go super edgy, we could do two-toned hair, but let's try and get a general shape together first. Maybe something a little bit messy, but still shorter. just below the ears, kind of the neck here. I'm actually going to shorten the neck a little bit. What I really would like to get better at for hair is the detailing and shading on hair. A lot of people, and my model's kind of a good example. I didn't draw my model, which I've talked about before, but I really like the hair strand texturing that the artist did on my model. I tended to do more solid pieces and then try and shade sections, but doing kind of like, I can't really illustrate it here effectively, but instead of pieces, doing more strands like this, and then shading all that. I wish I could be better at that, so it's kind of a practice thing. Maybe we can shorten this one up a little bit. I just realized it's starting to look like my model a little bit. Alright, this is a good start, I think. This actually kind of looks like a couple characters I've already designed. One thing that could be interesting, it won't necessarily be something we fiddle around with too much in the sketch primary phase we're in now, but doing something like, oh, let's see, how do I want to do this? Maybe like a gray. If we're thinking like makeup, kind of like a dark, semi-goth inspired makeup type thing. This is just me putting this on a new layer just for experimenting. If I was going to actually do this, I'd have to dial it in much better, but we're talking about a moody character. That might not be a bad thing to do. I suck at doing makeup, but it's on a sketch, so it wouldn't be that easy to see anyway. Let's see, get rid of this. Let me kind of execute on the idea I was talking about just a minute ago. I'm going to copy this down. Basically directly below. Keep the same expression, but change the hair. And let's see. Didn't move the primary down, but I can kind of keep a rough idea of where the boundaries of the head are. It's kind of like right there is the top of the skull, essentially. placeholder. Could go for like a more extreme, I don't know, is it punk? I don't know what punk kids look like nowadays. Something that's a bit more irregular in its length, like maybe longer towards the front, like people used to do back in the day, and maybe more shorter towards the back. So let's see if I can illustrate what I'm talking about now that I've erased all of the guidelines. Oh, what I could do is I could do this, make it easier. Where is it? Up here. I can just move this down where I need it. Yeah, that's fine. Kind of have the bangs sweeping in one direction. Maybe going a bit more outwards towards the front. I was thinking kind of more of a short, slightly feathered look towards the back. Let's see. Get rid of that. Bit more messy and kind of unkempt. Maybe we can clean it up a little bit so it doesn't look quite as obscured. All right, let's compare that to the first one here. Honestly, actually, I better save my work. I know Wazzy had mentioned it on one of her streams, but I have a bad habit of not saving often enough. And fortunately, Clip Studio is somewhat stable. I think I've actually had Photoshop crash on me more than this program. But the idea of you being so engrossed in your work that you don't save for a stretch of time and then the program goes down and you lose all your stuff is probably one of the worst things in the world for an artist. Alright, let's turn primary off. Now that I'm looking at it, this... Where am I? Down here. This one right here seems like it would be the result of this one right here growing too much. Or like, you know, short hair, 3 months of not cutting it, longer hair. Which is not necessarily what I was going for, but if we're doing like a time-lapse progression, that's what that looks like. Let me see. Let's do... I want to do another one. In fact, we might not even need these other ones. Maybe we could just have a series with just this face for now. While it says, oh yeah, I always forget to save. Yeah, it's pretty smart for you to have that save check redeem on your channel. That way your viewers can help you if it's been a while since you saved. I think that's a really good idea. Alright, I'm going to copy the face over with the primary underneath it, and I want to try and do something that's even more different from this first one here. Let's see, we'll duplicate this one. Put you over there. You guys can probably see it on the right side just above my model's head, but my layer hierarchy is an absolute mess right now. It's okay for the sake of the exercise here. It's not a super big deal, but I need to get better about keeping my layers labeled at the very least so I can navigate them easier. That's fine. I think what I should have is, you know, head A1, A2, A3. If I save this, I'll probably organize it later, just so I can navigate between the layers easier after the fact, but it's fine for now. But speaking of programs and interfaces, one question that I've been meaning to ask Wazzy that I didn't get a chance to ask on her art streams is whether or not you draw in any other programs besides Flash. I know when you're streaming and you're working on your animations, you work in Flash, but that has to be a somewhat inefficient drawing program. For animation, obviously, it works well, but for regular drawing stuff, do you use any other art software besides Flash? Wazzy says, that's a mess. How do you live like this? I don't normally do my non-stream stuff like this. It's just not organized. And we can fix it right now. That'll calm the OCD of some people who might be watching this. Let's see. We'll call this A1. A2. A3. A3. We'll call this primary one. That one won't need to change. I just need to move it around where I need it. Wazzy says, for the most part, no. I've become so used to Flash, I feel useless in other programs. You'll notice I do random colors while drawing, and that doesn't translate well to other programs. That makes sense. I also noticed, just watching your art streams, that the way you do your lines, I'm sure you can explain it better than I can, but it looks like it's a line function in Flash that basically you're drawing on a tablet, if I remember correctly. But it actually is smoothing. That's what it is. The smooth is what actually takes your strokes and kind of, like a vector program, essentially turns it into a clean line. And that's really interesting. I've done a lot of work with vector type drawing. I don't do it for any of this stuff here, but the way you do your lines, it's very different from like a freeform sketch or like a pen type tool. And yeah, the smooth feature is what does that. I haven't used Flash in 20 years. I didn't really tinker around with it for long. It's way back in the earlier days of the internet. But if you've adapted Flash's toolset to allow you to make stuff efficiently, then there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't matter if it's an old version or a new version or whatever. If it works, it works. Well, as he says, in reality, I can't really draw. I don't know if that's true. Even if it's with an unconventional tool set, it's still drawing. But I know your primary background, from what you've told me, is animation. So you've adapted, obviously, Flash's tool set to be able to draw in a way that's going to make it easy to animate. You can do static drawings and art fine, like you've done in your streams, but if you're trying to composite and set something up in order to be able to animate it and make it move, then I could see why it makes sense to do it that way. Okay, let's see. Let's look at primary number 3. I want to do maybe something a little bit more, I was gonna say spiky. But I want the direction and kind of like the length of the hair to be different from these other ones. So let's see. Maybe we can go for kind of longer parted bangs, and not necessarily spiky, but let's come up with some ideas and see how it works. Wazzy says, I've never taken an art class, so everything is ham-fisted together. Yeah, I can relate to that. I've only taken a couple art classes a long time ago. I don't like art classes. What I really would like to do is take some digital tools classes now, as opposed to like art theory. Art theory drove me up the wall. I'm the type of person who just likes to learn the method and how to use the tools. I don't need to know the history and the philosophy. I just need to know how to make whatever it is I'm working with do what I want. And usually classes aren't structured that way, so that's why I don't really do art classes. But if it's like a tutorial type thing where someone is breaking down how a software or something works, and I want to draw it like this, here's how you do it like that, that's how I learn. So it usually just means it takes me longer to learn stuff because it's trial and error. Oh, look, we've got Leon Kennedy's hair. Could switch it up by making it actually really short. Just really long bangs. Naked Snake's here. Naked Snake says hi. Good evening, Naked Snake. Welcome to the drawing stream. Hope you are doing well this evening, or morning, or day, wherever it is in your time zone. We are doing some character concept sketches, coming up with some ideas for a potential character in a story. I've been talking with Wazi about art technique for a little while. Very interesting discussion. Alright, let's compare version 3 to the other two. So with the first two, number 1 and number 2, sort of being like a logical progression of how someone's hair might grow, this third one is kind of more of a departure. Totally different, short hair but long bangs. Think of the three possible ideas for a character design. I think I would be leaning towards 1, but I'd want to edit it a little bit. Like I said, this is kind of similar to a style I've drawn before. Not identical, but some of the attributes are a little bit similar, so there might have to be some additional edits done. This one right here is interesting, but if I had to draw the character multiple times, it'd be kind of a nightmare to do that on model consistently. But what we can do is we can keep iterating. Maybe I'll do 1 or 2 more of this particular face, and then go back to the primary model and do like different eyes, have a different character setup. Again, by the time we finish working on this, it might be more of a grid of different character, like faces and hairstyles, and it goes up and down. Naked Snake says, I like 1 too. It's a little more simple. I think as we kick around ideas, I want to sort of try some more out there ideas just to sort of get a contrast for different styles. Let's see, we'll call this A4. And we'll move our primary over. And kind of to recap what we were talking about before, some of the traits that I'm thinking about putting together for this particular character, it'd be character in her mid-20s. This is a female character, and kind of more of a moody disposition, not necessarily like an emo type character, but just a little bit more moody, sarcastic maybe. Yeah, naturally kind of pessimistic or a grumpy person. Let's see. Soldiers number 170 says hello. Hello, Soldiers number 170. Welcome to the drawing stream. I don't know if I've seen you here before, so if you're new, welcome. Peasant number 170 says, STFU soldier? Wazzy says, yeah, that's right, Wazzy. Someone who's kind of over it, but not the type of person who'd just be, you know, like a doom and gloom person, just sort of more tired with everything. And soldiers number 170 says, wait, I have to say that? Is this a bit? Are we being rated by people from the 170 tribe? If so, that would be a new one. Either way, for the number 170s, welcome to the drawing stream. But yeah, as far as informing kind of character traits and personality, I think we're going to get some of that from the design, but as far as how it sort of shapes up, when we start moving on to things like, hopefully we can get to at least some of the outfit and clothing. But for now, I'm focusing on the kind of head, facial features, hair, and then we'll see what that sort of does. All right. Let's see, make sure I'm on A4. We've got medium, longer, kind of shorter. I kind of want to do more of an extreme departure. Let's see. Let's start with the bangs. Maybe more like swept bangs. I have an idea. We'll see if this actually comes together all right. I have kind of a longer piece on the side here. I don't know what these are called. Someone who's an actual hair anatomy expert. I've always wondered what that part, when you have these long things on the side, what they're called. You see it in like anime characters all the time. I don't know if it's got an official term. I always wondered about that. I think we're gonna go longer on this one. We'll have it feathered out so much. Wazzy said it's called hair. Well, yeah, I get that, but like, you know, this part of the hair are bangs. I don't know if things that are longer on the side have a specific name. I'm just curious. Side hair. Can we just agree to call it side hair? This could be like a person who has longer hair, but it's sort of kind of tied loosely at the base of the neck. And my idea for this one, again, this one's probably a little bit more simple than the others. You could even put something like a hairpin over here. Naked Snake says no. No, isn't it? It's not called hair. Wazzy says, why don't you get bullied in your streams? Are you talking to me? I can't speak for Wazzy's folks that come to my streams and then bully Wazzy in my streams. That has to be bred from something from her streams, I imagine. Because the folks that started off here, just tuning in every once in a while, they don't really bully Wazzy. It's usually the folks that come over that are from her streams. I don't know. Maybe if I had more strong opinions, then people that are tuning in would roast me more. But I don't know. I think the only person who's not natively from Wazzy streams that harasses her is Penguin. And he usually makes up for it by posting pictures of adorable animals in Wazzy's Discord. So I don't know the answer to that question, Wazzy. Naked Snake says, hey, did you hear that the Queen of England is dying? Is she really? That's not too surprising considering how old she is. That's gonna be a big deal. Naked Snake says, the reason he doesn't get bullied is he's nice. Maybe if I yelled at my chat more, they would bully me. But I'm not really a yell person. If I tried to do that, it would seem really forced and it'd be very obvious. Wazzy's mentioned it before when I've talked to her, but I have like a naturally really kind of calm voice, and that tends to come off for people who don't know me too well as me being bored. Bored or sleepy is what I get a lot. But the reality is I just have a kind of mellow voice. I'm really not a low energy person unless I'm super tired. But it's a little bit challenging to be a streamer because unless you're going for like a chill vibe, like a chill comfy vibe, which is what I try and do here, some people might tune in and say, well, this guy's just the David Blaine of VTubers and it's not that interesting, which hopefully is not the case. But in contrast to Wazzy, who's very animated and opinionated, maybe that's what draws a lot of the hostile interactions from chat. I don't know. All I know is I could tell you guys not to bully her in my stream, but you guys would just do it more, so. I would just say don't do it so much that she never tunes in because she always has interesting questions for me. Wow, it's been almost an hour and a half already. Let me see if I can switch up the BGM real quick here. Could go for a scatter. At 50%, it sounds kind of like a beat repeat. Similar effect. Yeah, I'm going to leave it off for the bass line. Put filter on the percussion lines. That'll switch it up a little bit. Yeah, we won't do that. What we've done is sort of created a double time version of the beat. We'll leave it like that for now. Oh boy, I missed like 5 messages from chat. Wazzy says, if the queen dies, I might not be part of the Commonwealth anymore. That is interesting with the whole, essentially what canon is affiliated with. I didn't think about that. Naked Snake says, okay, since you said so nicely, I'll stop bullying her. Wazzy says, apparently there's been talk of it being easier to be independent than switching to Prince Charles. Huh. Yeah, I never really thought about that. That is interesting. And Naked Snake says, how has your day been going? To Wazzy, I assume. Yeah, as far as international news goes, that, I guess we'll have to see what happens with that. I didn't even think about how, like, the status of the royalty would affect things like Canada. Okay. Let me try something else with the BGM before I forget. I'm going to leave that on reverse. That is kind of interesting. If I reverse the bass line, it creates an entirely different sound. Naked Snake says, by the way, who is David Blaine? Oh, you've never heard of David Blaine? He's the street magician guy. He was a lot bigger in the 2000s, but he basically, his whole shtick is he goes around on the street doing magic for people. And he's really talented. He's a super skilled guy, but he has this really sort of deadpan delivery when he talks. It's almost monotone, and I think it's part of his act, but overall he doesn't have an expressive face or a voice, and he just talks like this the whole time when he's doing magic tricks for people. And as a result, it's interesting, but it sounds like his voice is putting his face to sleep. Again, talented, interesting guy, but his whole character or shtick is that kind of flat delivery of everything. And I've been told I sound like that sometimes, so I try not to do that. I know it's not super interesting to listen to. If you've never seen David Blaine, you should look up his stuff. He has some pretty crazy magic tricks he does. Naked Snake says, that's probably why I was born in 2002. Okay, yeah, I think he was big in the later 2000s, so you would have been very young. But he's still around. I don't know how relevant he is, but he's still around and doing his act. But yeah, you should look him up sometime. Alright, let's try and put a different face together for this. Move the primary down here. And we're essentially going to start from scratch. And I'm going to do some, we'll call this one B1. And maybe I will put these in directories so then it's not quite so cluttered. I'll put all the A faces in directory A, and we can just collapse it down so that my layer list doesn't look so horrible. All right. So let's see. Rough in the overall face shape is not going to change. Sort of kind of round face, that's not going to change. Naked Snake says, people have been saying two things to me: watch Arcane and play Final Fantasy XIV. I'm assuming not at the same time. I've heard Arcane is very good. And I know it came up on Wazi's stream too, I think, recently, but I've heard it's a really good piece of animation and show, even if you know nothing about League. And that is interesting because the art style looks pretty neat. It's on my list of things to look at. It's not the highest priority for me, but I've heard it's really good. And I know jack squat about League. I've never been in the League and I don't care about it. But I've heard the lore and the world and the art is all very good. As far as Final Fantasy XIV, people have been yelling at me to play that for a while. And I don't really do MMOs. I think I've talked about that briefly on stream before, but it's the one genre I don't really do because the investment of time and money starts to feel like a job after a while. And I have some friends that play 14 and they're pretty in there. And it looks fun. I don't have enough time to do what I want as it is. If I got into 14, I'd have even less time to get stuff done. But I've heard as an experience and a product, it's very good. And Wazi says, FF14 comes out tomorrow, but that means I get to play Genshin without restrictions. Yeah, I know. Wazi said that Matt's in there. Again, looks fun, but the idea of having even less free time than I do now is not appealing to me. Alright, we're going to go for an entirely different eye shape here. Naked Snake says, well, tomorrow is the final day of Fortnite before the next chapter, so I'm going to enjoy it. Is the next chapter when their Naruto collab is happening, or that already happened in the current chapter? I know even less about Fortnite. I got no issues or opinions on it, but I just don't know content-wise what's going on in that game. Okay, Naked Snake says Naruto's already in the game. Okay, so that already happened. I just remember people talking about the collab itself. Again, I don't know anything about Fortnite. I actually don't know anybody who plays it, so I guess Naked Snake would be the first one I've talked to who plays it. Okay, that could be kind of a deep hole of time and money too, if you let it. Alright, let's see. I need to start flipping my canvas around while I'm doing the things like the eyes. Make sure we're not skewing off to one side here. Naked Snake says, my study skills teacher gave us assignment to draw what our least favorite classes are, so I just drew memes. I thought it said, when I read your message, I thought it said our least favorite Fortnite classes. But least favorite classes That's kind of a weird assignment. But I support the meme scholarship. I don't know if your teacher understands memes, but it doesn't matter. The answer to most of life's problems can be solved with just create memes. Okay, I'm gonna rotate the face slightly. Move down. I'm going to smooth out the jawline here a little bit. Naked Snake says, gave me extra credit for the memes. Well, that's good. I don't know how old your teacher is, but if they can appreciate memes or even understand them, then that's good. I feel like they're going to have to start putting meme study into education courses just so teachers can actually talk to kids and understand what they're saying. Like I picture a course that's like how to understand what Zoomers are saying when they talk to each other. Lesson 1. What does sheesh mean? When would you say sheesh? Stuff like that. You know, forget like European history. You teach contemporary communication. I think that's more important. Wazzy says, wait, how do you know about memes, Raku? Wazzy, I've been on the internet since like 1996. I got to watch memes be invented. Now, whether or not I get all the memes that are current, that all the Zoomers throw back and forth, that's another thing, but I was there for the dawning of the meme era way, way back. I watched the rise of the Chans. I wasn't on any of the Chans, because it seemed like a terrible place to be, but I was nearby watching them and watching all the things that they spat out. Naked Snake says, I feel like their memes would be outdated. Well, that's why you would have someone who can speak the language of the modern memes design the curriculum. You wouldn't want someone who's like a super boomer to do it because they wouldn't know what they're talking about. Naked Snake says, hey, can you spell iCup? Yes. Yes, I can. I'm assuming you're just asking yes or no question. Yes, I can spell it. Seems pretty easy. Wazzy says, so was my mom. And she doesn't know memes? Is that what you're saying? Well, just because you were on the internet way back in the day doesn't mean you were necessarily close enough proximity to the development of meme culture. It happened to intersect with a lot of my interests at the time, so that's why I know about meme history. I don't think I've talked about it before on stream, unless someone asked me in one of the Q&As, but one of my favorite memes that's still around today, whether people like it or not, is the Rickroll. As a person who unironically likes Never Gonna Give You Up, the fact that it turned into such an enduring thing on the internet and has caused Rick Astley to have a relevant career up till now is just fascinating to me. I thought it was funny. I know a lot of people who would just go ballistic if you sent them like a Rickroll link, but I always thought it was funny. But even outside the more innocuous, kind of harmless memes, I survived the era of Goatsy, man. And Zoomers nowadays don't realize what an unsettled hellscape early meme culture was. It was the Wild West. You had no idea what was going to happen with memes and internet trends. So if you guys don't have an equivalent of Goat to suffer through, then you can consider yourselves lucky. Very lucky. Naked Snake says, hey, is that up, dog? You know, Naked Snake, just for full clarity, I do watch, or I used to watch a lot more of the Game Grumps content. So if you're going to try and trick me on stream, you're going to have to use things that weren't on part of other popular content creators' content. I've yet to be able to get that updog thing to actually work on someone, though. I've tried. Wazzy says, don't remind me. What about Goatsy? Would you rather I talk about Tub Girl or Lemon Party? Naked Snake says, I remember Good Smosh and Super Best Friends and Sky Does Minecraft. Super Best Friends were my favorite content creators on YouTube till they disbanded. No one can really say that no good entertainment ever came out of Canada, because I really liked those guys. I actually met them in person once. They were very nice. I still follow their individual efforts since the Super Best Friends channel went down a couple years ago. They are funny dudes. And I could tell just by Wazzy's reaction that she's been around long enough to know some of the older, probably more terrible memes. You want a good historian who's got a lot of information on the internet going way back. I think I've talked about it before as far as some of my favorite YouTubers, but I really like Justin Wang, or just Wang, ! Here on YouTube. He is one of the many internet historians, and he talks about a lot of memes and trends from way back in the day. It's really fascinating, having been there when that stuff was new. Naked Snake says, I still listen to the podcast in high school. Oh, for Super Best Friends? Yeah, I try and catch their Castle Super Beast podcast, the successor to the Super Best Friend cast, every once in a while. That's with Pat and Wooly. There was a really funny moment from one of their recent podcasts / streams where one of the guys, Wooly, who's a giant Cowboy Bebop fan, watched the Ed scene from the new Netflix one, and he had some of the most hilarious facial expressions I've ever seen on anybody watching anything. I should post that somewhere. They're recording their podcast, and one guy, Pat, was telling Wooly about how people were reacting to the new Netflix adaptation, and he just straight up sent the clip of Ed from the end of whatever the season was to Wooly, who'd never seen any of it. And again, as a giant fan of the series, watching his expressions was... There were caps of that stream of his face, like, cropped out for meme format, like, that day. Naked Snake says it's one of the best reactions ever. Oh yeah. If you're talking about Wooly's reaction, it was like watching a man go hollow in real time as he watched something. But yeah, that's a pretty good one. Naked Snake says download music is just like stealing a car, and Waz says you wouldn't download a car. I remember the whole discussion about... I haven't been making progress on my sketch, sorry. It's a really interesting conversation. Back in the heyday of peer-to-peer file sharing... what do I want to do for this one? Maybe we can go spiky. I remember back when Napster was new, a whole bunch of different peer-to-peer clients. I think I got most of my Japanese music off of SoulSeek and Audio Galaxy. But then you had stuff that came up later like Kazaa, Morpheus, a whole bunch of peer-to-peer stuff. When I was in Earth School and I had an actual decent internet connection, Again, like the Wild West, before regulation and stuff killed a lot of those services. You get a lot of cool stuff, but then you also could get a lot of random, unexpected things. Nowadays, I'm assuming file share software is still prevalent and out there, but I tend to avoid doing a lot of that stuff just because I don't want to deal with the security risk. And also, if I care enough about something and I want to legitimately own it and I don't have a lot of moral issues with it, then I'll usually just pay for it. I've pirated a lot of software in my day. One of the pieces of design software I use outside of all the stuff you guys see here on stream cost me $1,000, and it took me probably, let's say, almost 15 years of using a pirated version before I justified getting a license because my OS forced me to, but then I never have to worry about it ever again, so that's nice. Naked Snake says, when you don't have money like me, you find a way to pirate a lot of stuff. And Wally says, then you need a VPN. Not sponsored, by the way. Yeah, like I said, back in the day, I used to go to the depths of the internets to find whatever I needed to get the job done. Kind of like what Naked Snake's saying. If I couldn't afford to pay for a full version of a software, I've done that. I don't care to scour the depths anymore. Thankfully, there's not a whole lot of software that I would really need. I pretty much have everything I need now between art, design software, audio editing, video editing. I don't think I need to buy anything else. Naked Snake says, Nord Shadow Legend Raycon. That's right. And don't forget your monthly box-based sponsors like Boxu or the meal prep stuff like HelloFresh. Or if you drink wine, Bright Cellars. I actually bought that for a relative for a gift once, and it turned out pretty well. Naked Snake says, is Loot Crate dead yet? I thought something happened to the company that, or part of the company that did the crates. I don't know. I subscribed to Loot Crate for a bit, but they sent me so much stuff that I didn't want or use that just piled up. And I stopped subscribing to it. I don't know about the shirt one. I haven't got a shirt in a while. I was doing their monthly shirt one for a bit because I actually wore some of the shirts. But I don't know. I feel like Loot Crate is fun until you just get a bunch of pile of useless junk that you may or may not want to re-gift to someone else to avoid wasting it. I came to that revelation when I had to move and realized how much stuff I had to pack up that I didn't want. I was like, okay, yeah, I need to cancel that. Alright, I'm gonna, let's see, let me draw on the peoples here. This is going to be Series B. Kind of a similar expression of being over it. Let me leave this here. I'm gonna go refill my water bottle. I think I might touch up a couple things with this one before I copy it and start adding some other hairstyles. But I'm going to turn off my mic. I can't turn off my sound source in OBS or it'll kill the BGM. But I'm going to go grab some water And now we're back in a minute. So, back in a moment. All right. Make sure I have my sound settings set up correctly. I need to mark on my loop station where I set my mic sensitivity so I could see where I can reset it every time I turn it off. Oh, what did I miss? Naked Snake says, not related to me, pirating stuff, but the new movie Rob Goes Wrong is alright, and that's it. Alright. I will take your word for it. Wazzy says, Raku Factu. Oh boy. Raku has no taste buds. That one's not true. I have taste buds. You're just saying that because you don't agree with my food choices. Next, Wazzy says, Raku's only traveled out of the States once. Technically, since I've been here on Earth, I've never traveled outside of the States unless you count Hawaii, which is outside the continental states, but not literally out of the States. Despite living in what I consider close proximity to Canada, I've never been there, but I really would like to go check it out sometime. And I really want to go to Japan, but obviously in the COVID crisis times, that's a little more difficult. And Naked Snake says, of course he doesn't, he's an AI. I'm not actually an AI, Naked Snake. I'm an alien. Now, I guess I haven't really talked about the lore in a bit. But yeah, I've spent pretty much all my time here in the United States since I've been on this planet. Let's see what else. Raku can't bend his left pinky. That's an interesting fact. I didn't know I had any pinkies left. Raku has 6 toes on 1 foot. That is also not true. I have 12 toes in one foot. Otaku has a 16 terabyte hard drive absolutely full of VTuber lewds. I wish I had a 16 terabyte drive. Anyway, I will not confirm or deny. Naked Snake says, #fake news. Otaku once sneezed so hard he threw out his back and had to stay on the floor for an ambulance. I've known people that's actually happened to. It sounds terrible. Oh, is Naked Snake numbering the facts? Wazzy says, Raku can't hold his breath underwater. That's not true. I can hold my breath fine. I miss pools and swimming. Wazzy says, Raku's never seen a VCR. I've talked about old media before, so that's definitely not true. I've never seen a Betamax player. And Wazzy was somewhat right on her facts, as she states there. Sort of. And Naked Snake says, that explains it. Beatboxing is your language. The use of music as a language is very important on Homeworld, but we don't have anything like beatboxing, which is really intriguing when I got here and I wanted to learn, because it was so different that I would seem like a real cool guy if I learned how to beatbox and took that back to Homeworld. Alright, let's see if we need to touch anything up with Series B here, and then we'll start copying it over. Like, one thing potentially, again, if we're going for kind of the idea of a moody character, it's probably not going to be as easy to do in Sketch. But we could even do something like kind of like dark makeup around the eyes, which might be a little bit too on the nose. But the expression kind of fits in line with what we were talking about. Naked Snake says, did your ship explode or get impounded, or are you just staying on Earth for now? Technically neither. I came here in 2001, and I came here to learn about Earth culture, having studied it on Homeworld for a really long time. Seeing all of the music, movies, and media that Earth created, I really wanted to learn more about it, so I came here in 2001 and was able to find a way to get into Earth School and stay here and avoid Area 51, and I've been here since 2001. And don't plan on leaving anytime soon unless the man evicts me. Naked Snake says, the character kind of reminds me of somebody from the old anime Code Lyoko. I remember Code Lyoko. I never watched it, but I remember that they had weird character designs from what I remember. Maybe it's the somewhat high forehead. Alright, let's duplicate this one and see what we can do with the hair. Let's do this. Put you over here. Or call this one B2. And we'll take the primary and we'll just put it underneath to give some boundary, just like we did on all the other ones. This version of the character with the face looks older. This would be someone I expect would be in their 30s. The character above, per the design specifications, is supposed to be in her mid-20s, mid-earlier 20s, and this character looks a lot older to me. Also is a little bit less feminine, kind of a bit more androgynous. It could be a dude too. But we will see what we can do with the hair. or Naked Snake says, anyway, did you hear that Zootopia is getting a Disney Plus show? I did not, but I'm surprised it took him this long to do that, considering how popular the movie was. The real question is, if they're gonna make a running show, is it gonna be like a super woke content show, or is it gonna be like a slice of life, fun time hijinks show? That would be interesting. Or is it just gonna be like furry bait? I guess we'll find out. Wazzy says, not 2B. Haha, I know nothing about Nier. Yeah, I figure you're talking about 2B from Nier. I've never played Nier Automata. It's on my list for big RPGs that have come out in the last several years. I know that one's up there. Maybe I could play that on stream. It'd be a long one, though. Alright, let's see. What would be a good hairstyle that's going to be different from what we've done so far? Trying to think about some styles and sort of layouts we haven't done. Let's see, we can look at the one directly to the left. Let's see, I'm gonna start sketching some things out, and then I'll sort of see what I'm feeling in different parts. I think we might be a little bit too high. Maybe we won't do that. Maybe we can go a little bit longer on the front. Naked Snake says, I have a bad habit of Spartan games that I like and drop them. I still need a complete Yakuza 0 and Like a Dragon, Psychonauts 2, and Forza Horizon 5. Yeah, I can relate to that. I have a problem of occasionally starting too many games and then not getting around to finishing them. That's why I'm trying to be careful how many I pick up and force myself to actually complete some. I've talked about it on stream a couple times, but I'm towards the end game of the main story in SMT5 right now. But I'm doing a bunch of grinding to do like team min-maxing and whatnot, which is usually why I never finish things. But I'll probably at least complete the story within the next week if I have time. I really like SMT5. It's a bit janky, but it's good. After that, for like a Switch-based RPG, then I'm considering getting Disgaea 6. I haven't played a Disgaea game in forever. Naked Snake says, also Hades. Hades is pretty high up on my list too. I know Wazzy recommended that one to me as well. I'm thinking about maybe doing that one on stream at some point in the future. Since next time we do Resident Evil 4 New Game Plus, I'm gonna finish it. We're at the very end of the game. I just didn't have time to do it last time. And then after that, I'm going to figure out what I want to do next. Maybe I will put it up to a vote on Twitter on what you guys want to see me play. I could either play a modern gen game, or I could play an old school super difficult frustrating game for punishment. My pick for a game of that era would be God Hand on hard mode. I'm sure you guys would love to watch me get punished and mercilessly beaten senseless in God Hand. That's one of my favorites from the PS2 era. Naked Snake says, I'm going to wait until they bring Persona 5 to the Switch. And Wazzy says, doubt they'd bring it to Switch. If they did, it would look awful. It seemed really weird that they worked in all of the ties with like Joker and Smash. And I don't know if Strikers was on Switch. But I would absolutely buy it on Switch if it ran well. Because I play more RPGs on Switch. Because it's easier for me to play on the go. Oh, Wazzy says, I love God Hand. Oh, Naked Snake says, don't crush my hope. Yeah, I'd be interested to see if they bring Persona 5. Assuming it ran decently, I would definitely pick it up. But Wazzy says, I love God Hand. That's interesting. I don't know too many people who've even seen God Hand before. It's one of my favorite PS2 games, and I haven't played through it in a while. As far as difficult games go, that would be near the top. On hard mode specifically. On normal mode, it's pretty manageable. While on hard mode, it is an absolute session of pain. Naked Snake says, I would like to see you play Metal Gear Rising. I've never beaten Revengeance. I have it. I played about halfway through it on PC. It's good. I just got distracted and never finished it. Same with Devil May Cry 5. I guess, I don't know, maybe I could put a list of things you guys would want me to play. Rising, I don't know how well that would run while I'm streaming. But for DMC 5, I know God Hand would run fine. I'm fairly certain the PlayStation 2 emulator would be fine for that one. But yeah, that game's a hoot. We'll see. Maybe I will let you guys vote on how you want me to suffer. I also thought about doing Dark Souls 1, one of my other favorite games I haven't played in ages. I have the remastered version on PC. So if you guys really want to see me suffer, that could be another good one. Wazzy said, I think I have a Wazzy Sucks @ on my channel back when I did video games. I'd have to check. Oh yeah, if you find it for God Hand, send it to me. I definitely want to check that out. Alright. We are steadily increasing our character's height, and I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing here. I don't know about the middle part. Maybe if we just go all the way back. You got me talking about God Hand. I'm not paying attention to my character drawing. Fun story on the topic of God Hand. I can't remember if I told this story already. We didn't do a story time stream for convention, so I may not have told it before. But either way, I went to a PAX this many years ago, and at PAX, the Platinum team, the people who do Bayonetta and whatnot, they were demoing Scalebound. This was before Scalebound got canceled, and they were doing a demo panel at PAX where they were showing off the latest build of the game, and then they had an autograph signing session afterwards. They were giving out posters for Scalebound, and then 3 dudes from Platinum were there. It was, I believe it was Atsushi Inaba, JP Kellums, and Hideki Kamiya. Like, the god himself of Platinum, Kamiya, was there. And they were signing posters. And we were waiting in line, and we all got our posters and we're waiting in line to get them to sign stuff. and I happened to have a copy of my PS2 version of God Hand on me because we were playing it at the PAX Virtual Console area where you can check out systems and just play stuff. I made one of my friends try it out just because I wanted to see him suffer. So I had my PS2 copy of God Hand. And so I got up to the line and they were signing the posters and just sort of chatting with people. And when I got to my turn, I went up to them and I said, "Hey, so I have a copy of God Hand, which is one of my favorite games, and Inaba had worked on it. Kamiya didn't, because this was back when the studio was Clover before they became Platinum later. So he didn't work on God Hand at all. But I said, this is one of my favorite games, and I guess Inaba-san, since you worked on it, I'd love for you, all three of you, to sign my copy." And Kamiya was very nice. He's like, "I didn't work on it though," and it's like, "That's okay. You're a legend, so please sign it." And JP Kellum's like, "Oh yeah, sure. God Hand is great." And so he signs it, and he's like, "Yeah. So what's your favorite part about it?" And I said, "Probably the ending credits." He said, "Oh yeah, that's pretty good." He said, "We really want to do something with God Hand, but it's complicated with who owns the rights." I wonder if I have a picture that I posted somewhere. I don't know where I put it. Let me see if I can find it real quick. And so all three of these dudes from Platinum signed my copy of God Hand. And so it was Inaba, Kamiya, and JP Kellums wrote, "You're not Alexander" on my copy, I think. Oh boy. Let me see if I can find it. I'll put up here on stream so you guys can see it. If I can find it here. Give me 1 second. Alright, I found it. Let's do this. Let me add a scene for pick. Browse. Well, that couldn't have been in 2019. It had to be earlier than that. That might have just been when I pulled it off my phone. Let's see, where is it? Oh boy, that is zoomed way in. There we go. This is a picture from my phone back in the day, my signed copy of God Hand. This is JP Kellums up here. He wrote, "You're not Alexander." This is Hideki Kamiya, and this is Atsushi Inaba down here. It was a pretty surreal moment. I have this sitting on my shelf since I don't have a PlayStation hooked up anymore, but yeah, it was pretty cool. It's like such an underrated cult classic of a game. Naked Snake says that's pretty cool. Watch says, "Whoa." And Naked Snake says, "I'm so excited for Bayonetta 3 and I love her design." Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's been many years in the making, and I'm sure it's going to be fine. Wazzy says, "Okay, but God or Demon, what are you? It's time for you to choose your path. The power of my God Hand, no evildoer will get past." On my personal non-VTuber streams, my closing theme song is the God Hands credits in English. It is such an experience, and if you've never seen the ending scene to God Hand, primarily for Naked Snake, since I'm assuming you haven't played it, don't look it up, especially if I end up playing through it on stream. It's something you gotta experience. It's definitely not as impactful until you've seen the game up to that point, but it's pretty great. That game has such an infamous legacy. Wazzy probably remembers, but way back when it came out in like 2006, 5, 6 ish, maybe 7, God Hand was given a 3 out of 10 by IGN because the guy who reviewed it couldn't figure it out and thought it looked terrible and played terrible, sounded terrible. And so I think it was a 3. It was a really infamous rating and turned out to be a really popular cult classic. And IGN got absolutely flayed alive for their quote-unquote gaming journalistic integrity for giving the game such a low score. So much so that later on, many years later, they recanted their review and they put it on like the PlayStation 2's must-play underground games list or something. But yeah, well, I'll go ahead and hide this. Everybody should play God Hand. The problem is I don't think you can get it on PS4 in the classics unless they added it more recently. If you had a PlayStation 3 when the store was still up, you could get it on there for like $10, dirt cheap. But I don't know. Maybe I will do God Hand next. If you guys are interested in seeing me play it on hard, I usually play through it like once a year, so I'd be down. Mozzie says, play God Hand in all caps. Nathan Snake says, for a second, I thought you were referencing Gundam G. Naked Snake is right. I don't have any confidence in IGN's ability to actually review games, but this is way back before when they were kind of reputable, when a lot more people took what they said seriously, and they gave God Hand like a 3 out of 10, and everyone's like, what are you talking about? It's a jank game, but it's awesome. Just because you didn't get past like the first level doesn't mean it's terrible. Like, I think it was, there was some other really, really bad game. It was like Teletubby Adventures or something. They gave like a 5 out of 10 or something. They gave a honest to God horrible game a better score than God Hand, and that was part of the controversy. And everyone's like, all right. But, I mean, I don't take anything IGN says literally with any sort of validity now. But back in the day when they were more reputable, that was a big black mark on their reputation. Like, this is before you guys remember when Cuphead came out and that one guy couldn't get past like the tutorial? It was kind of like that for God Hand, but basically on account of its jank factor, the reviewers like, yeah, it's just trash, no one should play it. And everyone's like, what are you talking about? It's jank, but it's lovable and it's stupid. Naked Snake says, FU Game Awards. Yeah, game reviewers not really wanting to do their jobs is probably why not a lot of people take what they say seriously now. But I tend to go to user reviews. As much as I hate going on the facts boards like GameFAQs, if I really want to know what people are thinking for it's like a console game, I'll just go see what people are saying in reviews. Alright, let's duplicate this one. Not too sold on B2 here. Just tossing around ideas. I think it's a little bit basic and kind of looks lopsided. It's probably because my screen is skewed. So let's do a third one. But yeah, as far as the discussion goes, maybe I'll do God Hand next. It's going to be an abrupt drop in visual fidelity, though, going from Resident Evil 4 Remastered to PS2 version of a game, but that's okay. Interestingly enough, they're from the same era of the original versions. I played Resident Evil 4 first. I think it was Resident Evil 4, Killer 7, and God Hand within like the scope of a year. Back when I played a lot more games to completion. One of my friends in Earth School was a little bit more on the pulse of games that were coming out and the more obscure stuff. So it's like he introduced me to Resident Evil 4, Killer 7, God Hand, and like Nocturne in a year. Definitely kind of like a golden age of PS2 era games that were so under the radar because they were either janky or a bit more obscure. I'm talking about God Hand and Killer 7 and Nocturne specifically there, not RE4. Everybody knows RE4. But a lot of good gems there. Killer 7's one of my favorite games as well. That's a good one. Naked Snake says, a game sequel we're never probably going to get is Metal Gear Rising, and that sucks. Yeah, I think with the whole way Kojima's exit from Konami happened too, you're not going to see anything with that property, which is unfortunate. But hey, he's talking about making movies now, which I don't know what he would make movies about since he can't do Metal Gear stuff, but chances are that would be an experience knowing how Kojima tells stories. Maybe you could do a horror movie. Maybe he can funnel his ideas from Silent Hills that got axed into like an actual horror movie. Maybe work with Guillermo del Toro again. Alright, let's see. What would be... Naked Snake says sand or DNAs. You must watch the same channels as I do for the Super Best Friend stuff. Because I was just watching the clips from that podcast where Pat and Wooly were talking about the theoretical title for Kojima's movie. That's why I brought it up. That sand or DNA's discussion was a hoot. And I don't even know Kojima's work as well as those guys do, but it was really funny. Wazzy says, I want a Persona 3 portable remake. They should just take P3P and like upscale it and then put it on everything like they did with Golden. That was the first definitive full playthrough of P3 that I did, because I had Fess back on PS2 back in the day, but I never beat it. And then when P3P came out on PlayStation Portable, I think I played it on Vita, but it was, I don't remember now. I think I played the version that they released, but on Vita, I don't remember. But the P3P one was the first one I beat for the Persona 3 iteration, and it's really good. I think I played, did I play as the female character? I honestly don't remember. Maybe I played as the regular dude. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. But the fact that you could choose which gender main character and then made that canon later, apparently. Yeah, that would be good. Put like P3P on Switch, man. That'd be perfect. I'm sure they can get it to run well on there. Or Steam. I still need to get Golden on Steam. I think it was released on Steam. Naked Snake says, just give it the Final Fantasy VII treatment. They would probably just port it over and just scale it up and not really change the content, and they'd be fine. I would definitely pick up some sort of remastered version of P3 on any platform. I'd get the most out of it on Switch because I play a lot of RPGs on the go, but... Wazzy says, okay, but FF7 remake is legitimately my dream game. Yeah, that's something I think only Square would do. We'll see if they ever do that for 6, Final Fantasy 6. I'd be very cautiously optimistic on that, since I don't know how you improve that game, but... Wazi says female route is only good route. So here's a question for Wazi as a Persona fan. I don't think I've ever asked her, and anyone else who's played the games can chime in as well. But for Persona 3, right? Persona 3, who's best boy out of Persona 3? Because everyone talks about best girl, but I want to know what Wazi thinks about best boy from Persona 3, and then I will tell you my opinion once she says. All right, let's see for hair. Maybe longer front parts of the hair. Naked Snake says that she chooses the guy who wears red. I thought you were talking about Akihiko's friend. Is his name Shinji? The guy in the coat that you get for a little bit until plot happens. And Wazi says, Akihiko, are you an idiot? I would date Junpei if they let me. I bet. But he gets real sexist in girl route. He's kind of a bro, but he kind of goes was it Yosuke from 4 about he kind of goes the incel route for a bit. I agree with Wazi. Best boy is Akihiko, hands down. I'm trying to think if there was anybody else you could date. Oh yeah, Ken. That's right. Ken is a literal child. You can't date Ken in P3P, right? It's almost been a decade since I've played that. No, maybe more. No, it was probably in the early 2010s I played it. Yeah, Akihiko's great. He's such a interesting and it seems like a really basic surface level dude at the beginning, and then you get all of his backstory. But I think we can all agree from Persona 3 that the best girl is Fuka, right? That's not a controversial opinion. Naked Snake says, I only played Persona 4 going on my laptop. Oh, did you play the Steam version of Golden? Oh, Wazi says they will let you date Ken in P3P. That's kind of messed up. I guess an alternate for best boy would be Koromaru, the dog. I don't think you can date him, but he's also a good boy. Let's see what we're doing with this hair. Maybe we could do something similar where the hair kind of goes out. Naked Snake says, and to be honest, all the girls in Persona 4 Golden are annoying, so I chose the tuba one. That's a hot take and a half, man. Wazi says, Fuka unsubscribing. First I thought you didn't hear me. I don't understand why people hate her so much. I don't think she's the best girl. I was mostly saying that to see what you would say. My pick for best girl out of the 3 casts is Mitsuru. She's my favorite. Alright, man, it's been so long since I played it. Yukari is the other one, right? I think she's got too many issues. Her arc is good, but as far as like girl dating material, nah. Too much baggage. And I never did play through the story of the fighting game to see what they did with the three characters when they get older. I should probably check that out. Wazi says, Snake, WTF, Rise and Chie are right there. My picks for best girl in 4 would have been Naoto first and Chie second. Snake says they're both annoying. Did you play all the way through the game? Because for 4, I don't think you can really think the characters are annoying by the end. Maybe in the beginning, before their arcs. Wazzy says, all your guys' takes are bad. Naked Snake says, I'd rather date Kanji. I love that man. Well, Kanji's best boy. I think, well, I don't know if that's a hot take. But if they had a female version main character for 4, I think everyone would date Kanji. But your choices are, of the boys, you have Yosuke and Kanji, right? Or Teddy. I guess technically Teddy. If they were doing like a female main character version like in P3P. But I don't think anyone would date Yosuke. I guess technically Dojima would be a candidate for best boy, the detective. But I don't think. Well, I guess you could date side characters in P3P, but yeah, I don't know. I think they're done remastering P4. The re-release of Golden, I think, was the last time they're going to do anything with it. Which is probably for the best. It doesn't really need to be remade. Wazzy says, Dojima is worst dad. Yeah. He's trying. But you basically are Nanako's dad. Because he's too busy getting drunk and eating ice creams with Adachi. Naked Snake says, don't worry, it's on PC now. People are making mods for it. Wazzy says, I would date Daisuke and Ko. Oh, Daisuke's the basketball guy, right? And Ko, or no, Daisuke's a soccer guy. Soccer? And Ko's the basketball guy. Dude, you gotta stop polishing those balls. I can't stop, man. These balls are on fire. Naked Snake, if you're playing P4, well, actually, depending on how far you play it, I'd say the Hi, I'm Daisy comic dubs that Wazzy and I always talk about are some of the peak comedy that you should watch, but maybe not until you've beaten it, because I think there's some later area spoilers, technically. Okay, Naked Snake says, I went through the game once and I didn't get trending. Alright, if you played through P4, then go watch the Hi, I'm Daisy comic dubs. They're great. Maybe we can make the hair a little bit longer, cut off a little bit lower. Maybe down here. Alright, let's turn off the primary. Okay, Naked Snake says, okay, good night. Oh. You taking off? If so, then have a good evening. Thanks for stopping by and chatting with us. Alright, let's zoom out and do a comparison for B. Kind of want to do one more. Let's see. We'll be wrapping up relatively soon here. Maybe we can do one more to round out the set of 8. And then I'll have to do some thinking on which one of these I want to use for the actual character design. So let's duplicate this one more time and then we'll do one last iteration of the hair. We'll do this one called some B4. And grab the primary, put it underneath. This second series here for the character concepts seems like it could be a potential other character in the story. I haven't thought that far ahead yet as far as other characters, but might be able to pull the design and repurpose it for something else. For the last leg, I think I'll revert the BGM back to what it was before. Just gotta delete everything else out, and we'll see if we can line in one more thing, one more style that's gonna be a little bit distinct from these other ones, and then we'll do kind of a final comparison here. So we have one going back. This one's sort of middle. This one goes forward. Oh, I think I know one possible variation we haven't really done yet. I don't know what you call a style like this, but it's kind of long in the front and then sort of more tidy in the back. Cutting off about here. kind of a more flowing look. You got the locks kind of going out, tapering a bit more, like semi-curled, but not fully curled. Have the ends sort of tapering in the same direction to be consistent here. Yeah, I think the sort of texture and sort of the way the hair falls is a little bit different from the others. I was thinking about maybe making it two-toned or different color, but I think for this one it'd probably be fine the way it is. Just like a flat color, but kind of more of a long, not necessarily unkempt, but a little more messy, but long style than some of the shorter ones. I think that would actually not be too bad looking at it. Let's hide the primary and kind of compare across the board. You could even do something funky like have highlighted tips or something. Leave it the way it is, but that could be a way to do kind of like an accent thing here. All right, let's zoom out and take a look at the concept study. So to sort of recap what we did on the stream today as far as the exercise goes, I'll go up the top here. We started with a basic face layout and expression, which is what you see here. This is A1. We have A, B, and we have basically 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We took a base expression that we sketched based on a neutral sort of 3/4 pose here, and then for each one I experimented with different hairstyles going across in this direction, and the same thing for the second series down here. And again, the whole point of the exercise is to come up with some ideas for character design and try and think of something that's going to be viable for a potential main character in a story I'm working on. And this is kind of like the lead in to give us a place to work from as far as sort of the character's disposition and basic design. And of series 1, or series A, excuse me, I think the one I like the most is number 1. Like I said before, this hairstyle is a little bit similar to some other character designs that I have, so I probably need to change a couple things with it. Maybe change the length or kind of change the way the hair falls a little. I think the front part here is okay. Maybe make it a little bit more kind of billowing, give it more volume. But the overall medium cut, I think, is my favorite of these. The longer one isn't bad, but it's kind of busy. There's a lot going on, and again, trying to draw this one in multiple instances would be kind of a pain. This one isn't bad. It's different from the others. It might be a good style for another character in the story. And then kind of likewise for the fourth one. This is the only one really long, like shoulder length hair that's sort of tied up at the back here. Oh, Wazi says, okay, gotta bounce. Thanks for streaming, Raku. Hey, thanks for tuning in, Wazi. Hopefully this exercise in character study and design was interesting. I think compared to most streams that you jump in on, you didn't get bullied too bad today. But yeah, thanks for stopping by and hanging out. I'm sure I'll catch you on one of your streams for the end of the week. Well, let's see. For Series B, I think the style that I like the most for the character here is probably this one, which is a little bit surprising because it was the last one I did. The first one with the spiky hair is not too bad. I think it's a little bit similar in layout to this one up here. It's just sharper and spikier. It's almost the same length and the same pattern. This one I think needs to be kind of fixed as far as the direction. Maybe it's going out too far, or there needs to be a bit more bangs. But not really feeling number 2. 3 is alright. For me, it'd be between 3 and 4, but I think 4 is the most unique sort of pattern. So what I will do for the next time, because I want to pick up on the character study again, we may or may not do this for the next drawing stream. I have to decide later. But now that we've sort of dialed in towards a look for the main character, and again, if we think of this as the primary and maybe this one is a secondary or antagonist character maybe, the next step will be doing a full body sketch with like a neutral pose, and then we'll be doing some actual character design for the costume. We'll have to think a little bit about where the character, what her background is, where she comes from, you know, what her job is, if she's got a job, her role in the story, which I haven't thought about quite yet. That's all going to inform like her outfit. Is she be wearing regular clothes? Is it going to be more like armor? We'll have to figure that out when we get there. And then once we do that, we'll create basically a fully fleshed out sketch. And maybe what I can do is come up with a pose base for how I want the character to be sort of posed. And then for the actual stream, we do a bunch of costume and outfit concept designs. And then just like we did here, maybe we won't do 4, but maybe we do several of them. Or not 8. Maybe we'll do several. And then sort of zero in on what we think for the outfit. And then once we do that, we convert that into an actual fleshed out line work, which will be rendered and colored and shaded. And then that'll be sort of the start to end character design for this particular person. So that's the plan. This is going to be sort of something I work on in between all of the other projects for the drawing streams, but I do want to come back to it. So we'll make sure that saves. But I think that'll do it for today's drawing stream. Again, this is a bit more of an experimental content type for the drawing, but I do like to do these exercises just to give myself some practice and try and learn and refine my techniques a bit. So once again, thanks to all the folks who stopped by and hung out and chatted on the stream today. We will be getting back together to work on this soon. I have to figure out the next stream this week. I've got to move some stuff around. Most likely instead of Saturday, it'll be Sunday. I'm waiting on someone to get back to me on something before I commit. So if I update the stream schedule, it'll be on Twitter, as usual, with the times and whatnot. But until then, once again, thanks for hanging out. We will go ahead and wrap up today's drawing stream, so I will catch you guys later. Have a good evening.